I want to share with you about a process for handling emotions that is not available in mainstream culture. There is not really a process for handling with emotions. The process is more of rejecting or denying that there is an emotion or pushing it away and mainly getting distracted. There is just so many hooks for getting distracted with your phone, with food, men with porn, and all sorts of other things that are available for just not seeing what the emotion is. And that leaves the people in this place where it's scared to feel, where you don't want to feel, where you want to protect your emotions and protect yourself from feeling anything because feeling is not safe in modern culture. You cannot feel because there might be some consequences for that. There might be the consequence that you're gonna be judged, you're gonna be laughed at, and that's on the more safer side of it. And on the other side of it is that you might get killed, you might get persecuted, you might get put in jail, might get put into an institution, and it's like there is these big consequences that since childhood we've been taught over and over. If you feel, there is big consequences. Is if you feel, you are breaking the space, you are essentially, the space is not big enough for you. When you are feeling, if you're feeling, there is something wrong with you. And all of this energetic programming comes out and it lands in the child's body, and it stays in different places all over in different forms, but energetically is the same motion. That is a repression form. It's this form of pushing away, repression, killing, and essentially that stuff stays in our bodies, and this manifests in our adult lives as emotions. These all of these feelings that we didn't have a chance to express and to use in that moment when we were feeling them, they get repressed. We swallow our feelings quite literally. We go like this, and we swallow it. We eat food, and then we numb out that feeling and all of the other things that you can do to numb the emotions. So then, as adults, as we grow up, we start accumulating these feelings that have been repressed, and they all stay in different parts of the body. Some of them are in the back, in the neck, on the head, on the stomach, on the belly, on the sex, on the crotch, on your legs, on your feet, all over. Depending on what happened to you, this energetic swallowing of your feelings, it stays in that place. So essentially, we don't have a way to deal with it in modern culture. We didn't get taught this in school. Our parents didn't teach us to distinguish between feelings and emotions. So it's kind of like all happening on the world, and we are navigating using stories very fast, which stories come from our head. Essentially, are one of the biggest ways of numbing the feelings and not feeling is going really fast on your head, or speaking like having your center, your attention in your mind center, in your head center. And this comes up in the form of beliefs, stories, and stories is the big one. Comes in the form of stories. And then it's like beliefs. What do you believe in? What are your opinions? What do you agree on? What you don't agree on? And stories that have a purpose, but we don't really know what the purpose is. Of course, we without dealing specifically with each one of these repressed all repressed feelings that we didn't get to express, they become emotions. They stay in different parts of the body, and if you don't deal with them, they eventually start growing, or they start like becoming bigger, because the pattern is still reoccurring in your life in different ways of forms that trigger the same emotion. And when that emotion is triggered, it fits on that. Like there is already a pathway, a mechanism where the feeling emerges, it comes up, and you already know what to do with it based on the previous experience, and based on what you already know what to do with it. And it goes into its place where it knows. So then that starts becoming bigger, and it starts generating disease in the body. It starts making the body sick. And why does it make it sick? It's because the body is communicating something. Is The body is communicating that the thing that you are feeling, is not to be swallowed back in. This thing that you are feeling is meant to have a purpose. It might be a boundary that is being crossed, a boundary of yours, that somebody's crossing your line, and you're not saying it. So then it goes, and it stays in the same place. It might be something that you are longing for, something that you really want in your life, but you can't say it because if you say it, you're gonna be laughed at, and then you swallow it, and it goes into the place where you already know where to send it. And then that is not the purpose of that. Like it's being misused. This feeling that is emerging is being misused, and so this is why it's called unconscious use of feelings or unconscious feelings. You're not conscious about how you're using your feelings because when you were a kid, you did not know these things. You didn't have the clarity, the distinctions. You didn't know that there were feelings, there were emotions, there were stories. All you had was adults, the role models, all their kids. You had the things that for our generation, the things that you watch on TV, the news, the TV shows, and the teachers at school, the people around you, your neighbors, and you didn't have really these distinctions about what is what. You didn't know that you have feelings and that you could use your feelings for something. You were just surviving. This is a survival strategy of using your feelings in this way where there is a boundary that is being crossed, for example, and instead of saying you laugh, you smile, you become good, and you swallow that and it goes into the place where it goes, and essentially this starts having the consequences that it has. It's like your body saying like that is not where it's supposed to go. This is not what feelings are for. This is there is a misuse of this resource. Let's say if we call it, if we were to call it a resource, there is a misuse of that resource, and by misusing that resource it has the consequences that it has. So as an adult now, you have the choice that you who are watching this video and who are perhaps being in touch with what I've been sharing, or perhaps other communities of healers, of healing, other communities of practice of consciousness, communities of where feelings are part of the practice, that you start gaining the tools for learning how to do something different with this. And this is where the emotional healing processes come in. And so an emotional healing process is a space that you get with a space holder. And this is a refined process that has been distilled over decades of empirical work. This means like practical work, trial and error from the community of practice called possibility management. Possibility management has been refining this process over and over with this thing as a context, this ground of radical responsibility, where you are responsible for what you bring in. You are responsible for all your actions. There is a radical, the universe, the nature of the universe is radically responsible. And from this place, there is such a clarity that it gets created in the space from that there is no one to blame. There is no one that you can say, like, pass on. There is no way that you can say, this is my mother's fault, for example, or this is my father's fault, or this is my partner's fault, this is my children's fault. It all comes back right to you, your decisions, what you are making and what you're choosing every moment, every single second, what you are deciding in that moment, in this moment. So from this space, this emotional healing process has emerged, and is a space that you get with a space holder. You get together, the person that is having the space held for them. So the person that is feeling, the feeler, who is having the emotion, and the space holder, who is the someone who is holding the space for the exploration of that emotion, for the navigating of the feelings, for bringing clarity, for navigating the space to where healing can happen. The principle of this space is healing. So the practice that we have been developing in our community has been of detecting, being able to detect when you have a feeling and when you have an emotion. And again, the emotion is when in the past you had a feeling and you couldn't express it, and it went and it got stored somewhere in your body. And it's a pattern that it repeats. Whenever you have that feeling again from a similar situation, then that feeling comes up again, and it creates this kind of like cycle where it cannot come out. It gets repressed and it gets stored in the body. And sometimes it can be like until it's too much. Sometimes it can be like a pattern where you feel angry but you don't say it, you swallow it. You don't say it, you swallow it. You don't say it, you swallow it. And then it reaches a point where it's too much, your body can't handle it, and it becomes explosive. It's like and it explodes. So there is all sorts of patterns that happen with emotion, but the thing that you can tell that is an emotion is because it lasts more than 3 minutes, and because it's a pattern. It's something that you've seen before. If you're having a feeling, anger, sadness, fear, or joy, that is lasting more than 3 minutes, or it can be a combination of those two, of those four. If you're having an emotion or a mixed emotion that is lasting for more than 3 minutes, it is an emotion. A feeling, which is something about the present moment, something that you feel authentically, something that you feel, and it has a way out, and it has a channel. You can see the information. You feel the anger. Somebody's crossing your boundary, for example, and you feel your anger come up, your fear, say like, whoa, somebody's crossing my boundary. Hey, somebody's crossing my boundary. No, I don't want you to cross my boundary. Like, hey, you're crossing my boundary. This is my boundary. Don't cross my boundary. Stop. This is a feeling that emerges, and you get the information from it. You use the information, you use the energy and the information, and it passes. It doesn't stay stuck inside of you in this form of, it doesn't stay circulating in your system. It just, you get used it, and then done. That feeling is handled. An emotion, on the other hand, is when there is the feeling but there is a blockage. It doesn't get expressed, or it gets expressed in a way that is not responsible, in a way that is automatic, and then it has the consequences that it has. So how do you do this? The first step to get into an emotional healing process is detecting when you have an emotion. Whenever you have an emotion, and being born in this culture, we are ridden of emotions. We're like 98% of the things that we're feeling are emotional, and there is actually very little space for feeling, because a lot of it is emotion. We've been repressed in a lot of different ways, and essentially creating a sort of cage for our feelings. So the first step of this is starting to going one by one emotion by one emotion. So whenever you experience an emotion, and this is if you want to take that path of healing your emotions so that you can make more space for feelings, so that you can make space for something else to be possible with these feelings that are coming from you, that are not the mechanical thing where it hits a wall and it stays inside. If you want to take that path of healing your emotions, healing your patterns, healing this recurring cycle that keeps happening to you in different situations at different times with different people, it could be in the realm of your work, or in the realm of your relationships, or in the realms of your family, in the realms of your community, of your offerings, of your work. There can be growth in all of those. If you're experiencing any patterns in those, you can be sure that there is emotions in there. And then it will be for you to start writing down in your notebook the doorway. This is the important part. You need that doorway to go through an emotional healing process. In the case of somebody crossing my boundary and me not being able to say it, talking my feelings, then the doorway can be something like, yeah, when so I cannot say stop, because if I say stop, I will be rejected. Something like that. It's a keyword. It's a keyword that captures how, kind of how it goes. Like, why are you not allowed to feel that? Why is it that you cannot say the thing? So if you want to go on that pathway of healing your emotions, you need that to start documenting or becoming a doorway hunter, where you are catching up these doorways to emotional healing processes or emotions. So you capture the emotion, you write it down in your notebook. And then what you do is you take that keyword, that key phrase, and you go into a space holder, and you ask the space holder, you take that to a space holder, and you ask the space holder, will you hold space for an emotional healing process for these emotions? And the truth about this is that you need some skills to be able to navigate consciously to these feelings, to these emotions, to have enough clarity in your emotional body that you are feeling something that is lasting for more than 3 minutes, that you're feeling something, and that is anger, sadness, fear, or joy, or a combination of those, and that is lasting for more than 3 minutes, and enough sobriety or clarity to say like, what is this about? To have that self-reflection, like, what is this about? What is really happening for me that this is going on again? And enough clarity and energy to write it down. So this is already a shift in how you can relate to your feelings and emotions, because this is not given in modern culture. So this is already like a whole territory of exploration, like a brand new territory that has been covered deep under many layers in the unconscious. So now you have this access to take a peek in there to see what's happening, and instead of feeling reactive fear and say like, no, I cannot feel, or something like that, or oh, I'm feeling too much, to have that clarity of saying like, whoa, what is going on here, what is happening. This is like a peeking under the veils of something that's been hidden for a very long time, and you have this whole territory to discover what am I feeling right now, and what is this about, and how does it go, how is it affecting my life, how is it happening again. And then you start becoming an explorer or your emotional feel, and this is already a shift in relationship with your feelings, from hiding to actually already sourcing that for a sort of aliveness, a sort of being turned on about discovering what is lying in there, what happened for you. And then this is already a way of sourcing your feelings, and it's not for the purpose of fixing yourself, or that you need to get fixed, you need to fix this emotion, because if you have emotions you are not present, or if you have emotions you are broken, you're stuck, you are repeating the same patterns, and then that has the consequences that it has. So this is a new doorway to relating with your feelings in a different way, that is not as a victim where you are scared of feeling what you're feeling, and then you can't show it because somebody's gonna find you and persecute you and kill you, and starting to open that up and allowing it to be more present. There might be blockages, there might be things that are blocking you from feeling that thing. There might be so much reactivity, and likely most of that reactivity is going to be on the side of I am right to feel like this. I don't need to investigate it. I don't need to research it. I'm just right. I don't need to do anything about this. This is just where I'm at right now. And there's this like kind of like wall like quality of feeling, especially when you're working with others. And one of the ways that worked for me, because I was highly numb when I started like doing this research work 3 years ago, and doing rage practice 3 times a week, 3 minutes, 3 times a week for 3 months, that allow it to open space inside of me to get closer to my feelings in a way that I see that you get to see where you are the one that is generating that feeling. That when you are angry in the kitchen because your partner is attacking you, or saying some of the things that you didn't do, or saying some of your faults, you become angry. You it's not her fault that you are angry, but that through that exercise experiment of 3 minutes 3 times a week for 3 months, I was able to see how I was the one that was sourcing that. And then with that, we seen how I was sourcing being angry to my partner. Then I was able to see like, what is my purpose of sourcing that, what are the results that I'm getting from sourcing that. And it is this big research about your emotions and the territory of your emotions. So it depends on the doorway that you are coming in. But once you have this keyword, this key phrase of your emotion, you can take that to a space holder. And if you already have some of these key phrases, if you already know which ones are those, then you can already take that to a space holder and navigate through that. And it might be that your next step is learning how to feel your fear a little bit more. Or it might be that your next step is learning how to cry when you are with another person. Or the next step might be that you need to learn how to set your boundaries, use your anger consciously to say how you want it, to say what is the line that is being crossed. Or it might be that your next step is completing an incomplete emotion, saying something that you didn't have a chance to say before. So there is all these different doorways, and these are all possible, and this can all happen in the emotional healing process space. So if you're interested in following that pathway of becoming an explorer of your emotions. Another way of saying this is becoming a feelings practitioner, where you are practicing your feelings. So you're learning, gaining awareness, getting distinguished. Just like that, there is some people that they're like wine connoisseurs. You become a feelings connoisseur or feelings researcher, where you are researching from not theoretically in books, and which is not excluded, but as an empirical way. You're researching what is it to be to feel something. What is it to feel? How do I feel? What am I doing with my feelings? and then using that as a research field, as a hobby. It's not a thing that you have to do to fix yourself, or a thing to get somewhere, but it's like being in this question of like, okay, what's up with these emotions? They're reporting, oh, this emotion, like this is how I'm using that feeling. I'm using that feeling to protect myself because I don't want to be seen as weak, or I don't want to be seen as incompetent. I don't want to be seen as the one that doesn't know. So I'm gonna become angry so that I don't have to even look at that, because it's not my fault. It's her fault. That kind of seeing like that dynamic, it creates a certain results in your life. And the cool thing about seeing the emotions, that seeing like I don't want to do that anymore. Why am I doing that? And then the emotional healing process is for you to take those steps towards getting more clarity, growing, feeling your feelings, gaining more capacity to feel, and at the same time gaining capacity to hold space for other people to do their emotional healing processes. So there is a community of space holders out there who do this space holding for free, and some of them are paid. Many of them are free. Some of them are free because they're also learning how to hold space, and they are in this journey of learning how to hold space for each other. And you would also go through this journey of having space held for you, and also learning how to hold space for others to do an emotional healing process. And this is key for any regenerative culture that is emerging out there in the world. If there is no protocol or process for handling emotions, for distinguishing between emotions and feelings, and from emotional reactivity, projections, triggers, if there is not a process in the community, in the culture to deal with this, the community would eventually go all underworld, unconscious, and all the aliveness will be happening in the underworld, in the unconscious essentially, and very little aliveness will be happening consciously. And this, from my experience, from what I, in my experience of being in communities and being in projects, intentional communities, eco villages, is that there is a lot of happening in the unconscious, made out of resentment, stories about each other, blockages, projections, mainly resentment. Like it's like a lot of it is made out of resentment that blocks all of the so much intimacy from happening. So this is key. Emotional healing processes are key for handling how it goes in a community, in any culture. This is why it's important to not just hold space for another as a shaman. It's not like you can be the shaman that heals the other and then the other is free. But everyone in the community needs to have a certain level of capacity to hold space for feelings and emotions and for healing processes, that it creates this abundant space where at any time that I'm feeling an emotion, I can reach out to my team, like who can hold space for me for going through this doorway. And then there'll be 10 hands, like, okay, I'll contact you. Maybe there'll be 10 layers, or maybe there can be 5 people holding space for me at the same time. All of these possibilities. So if you're wanting to go in that path, you have start collecting your doorways, become a documenting, walking on this pathway of exploring your emotions, documenting your doorways. Write down in your notebook, in the last page, make a space in the last page of your notebook for the doorways, and then find a space holder. There is a community of space holders out there, which I'm gonna put in the link, and you can also Google it. You can also research it, possibility management, EHP space holders. And there is a Telegram group where you can go ask for space holders. You can ask me, and you can see if there is anybody around you that can hold space for this. And this is creates a it starts creating that awareness inside of you about what the emotion is about, and it starts making more space inside of you, because it's not a space of reasoning, of figuring it out and thinking about it, but it's a space of feeling and increasing your capacity to feel, of feeling that thing that you didn't allow yourself to feel when in the past. And then you're in the present as an adult, creating this space for yourself, sourcing the possibility for you to heal that emotion by feeling that thing that you didn't allow yourself to feel. And the interesting thing is that until you don't complete that emotion, it's gonna keep reoccurring. It's gonna keep coming back. It's gonna keep bringing, like recirculating, until something is not complete. It's gonna keep repeating. So once you're when you're ready to complete that emotion, stop that pattern from reoccurring, get a space holder and start looking into it, start getting that completed. And the completion happens with the space holder when you're feeling that thing and there is a space holder right there in front of you in the camera or in person who is catching you, who is catching your communication, who's saying back to you what you are saying to them. And it creates this sort of completion where once it's completed, the amazing thing is that once it's completed, it doesn't have to repeat it ever again. It doesn't repeat ever again. You don't need to go there. Perhaps you go and you see the old pathway where you were going before, but now you see that there is maybe 10 new ways, maybe 3 new ways, maybe one different way of going that you can take this to. And this is the marvelous thing about emotional healing process. So I hope that you get some value from this, and that I encourage you to go in that journey of becoming an explorer and starting to peek in that underworld, in that unconscious of what's happening under there that is not being said. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.